Most orders ship the same day, so check out our selection at nuts.com today.
We may no longer have to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar in order to cast a ballot. But even as we sit here, there are those in power who are doing their darndest to discourage people from voting by closing polling locations and targeting minorities and students with restrictive ID laws and attacking our voting rights with surgical precision, even undermining the Postal Service in the run-up to an election that's going to be dependent on mail-in ballots so people don't get sick.
Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in New York. That electricity in the church when former President Barack Obama delivered a searing indictment of Donald Trump's presidency at the funeral of Congressman John Lewis is precisely what the Biden campaign is hoping to recreate tonight when the former president addresses the Democratic National Convention live from the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia, a location selected specifically to underscore his central message. Democracy is on the line. President Obama will address the convention at the same moment that Trump seems to be gleefully yielding the high road that Michelle Obama talked about on Monday night to his opposition. The current president doubling down on his campaign to create chaos and sow doubt over the legitimacy of the November election and under fire once again for his ties to Russia, this time from a Republican-led committee. As the need to break through to a scandal-fatigued nation and crystallize the threat of a second Trump term amid the blur of Trump's misdeeds grows more urgent, Obama steps onto center stage. An advisor to President Obama telling NBC News today he's set to penetrate Trump's most egregious abuses that have left democracy itself on the line and showcase a pathway out, which runs straight through electing Joe Biden. The country's first black president will share the stage tonight with the country's first black vice presidential candidate. Tonight, Senator Kamala Harris will accept the Democratic nomination for vice president, showcasing her considerable skill as a defender of Joe Biden's record and a prosecutor of Donald Trump's. Together, a Harris-Obama 1-2 punch, two of the most popular political figures on the national scene at this moment. That's based on a recent NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. They'll be flanked by a slate of Democratic powerhouses, including Elizabeth Warren, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, just to name a few. Night 3 of the Democratic National Convention is where we start with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. With us from the Washington Post, White House Bureau Chief Phil Rucker, plus Jason Johnson, a professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University and a contributor for The Griot. He's back. An associate editor for Real Clear Politics. Our friend A.B. Stoddard is here. Let me start with you, Phil Rucker. This contrast, it seems to be widening. I mean, the Democrats building on that searing indictment of Donald Trump Monday night from Michelle Obama, one of the country's most, I think one of the most respected public figures in the world. President Obama really campaigning like our lives depend on it, making clear that's his view of this election, the introduction of Kamala Harris. And Donald Trump getting, to be blunt, weirder by the day, endorsing the fringiest elements and the sort of smallest aspects of his coalition.
I think that's right, Nicole. And we're going to be seeing tonight President Obama lay out that case against Donald Trump, but really underscore that he thinks the very democracy of this country is at stake. There is a belief that the former president shares, but also that a lot of the people who work for him, including Vice President Biden, that a lot of these profound changes over the last 4 years in the country and the erosion of our institutions can be reversed after 4 years. But a second Trump term after 8 years would make it very difficult to go back, and this could become a different kind of country. And that's the case that we expect Barack Obama to be making tonight. Some excerpts just came out from that speech, and he actually talks about how he sat face-to-face with Donald Trump, then President-elect Trump, in the Oval Office a couple days after the 2016 election. And he didn't believe, Obama says, he didn't believe that Trump was going to continue his policies or share his vision for the country, but that he did believe that Trump would grow into the job and that he would take the responsibilities of the office seriously and that he would work to protect the democracy that elected him into that position. And Obama says he's concluded that Trump cannot grow into the job and is incapable of it.
Let me read some more of those experts. They were handed to me at the same time that Phil Rucker started telling us about them. So there's that section that you just described perfectly. President Obama also expected to explain why he hasn't grown into the job. Quote, Donald Trump hasn't grown into the job because he can't. And the consequences of that failure are severe. 170,000 Americans dead, millions of jobs gone, our worst impulses unleashed, our proud reputation around the world badly diminished, and our democratic institutions threatened like never before. Obama goes on to say tonight, quote, I'm well aware that in times as polarized as these, most of you have already made up your mind. But maybe you're still not sure which candidate you'll vote for or whether you'll vote at all. Maybe you're tired of the direction we're headed, but you can't see a better path, or you just don't know enough about the person who wants to lead us there. So let me tell you about my friend Joe Biden. And then he goes on to really detail a stirring and personal endorsement of Joe Biden's strength, something we're seeing more and more of around this national security argument, and his character. Jason Johnson, the Obamas really coming out forcefully, delivering messages that really are designed to cut through this calcified political climate we're living through.
Yeah, Nicole. Well, first off, Michelle Obama was amazing, and her language and her speech and her passion were fantastic. And now we have Barack, who's going to pretty much follow up with this almost Tony Braskin-esque theme of, you know, Trump isn't man enough for the job, right? Like that's essentially what they're arguing, both from a sort of insulting the president, but also from a practical level. But I have to say, one of the things that's really, really amazing about tonight is you look at this list: Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren, Senator Harris, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. This isn't just a contrast in how we want the country to run. This is a contrast in how we want the country to look. This almost feels like the day before the end of a festival where it's like, well, is tomorrow really the undercard? Because everybody tonight is fantastic. So I think the biggest challenge might be, can Harris top what Barack Obama has to say? And if she does, the Democrats can pretty much shut it down. This will have been a completely successful convention.
Let me pick up with you, A.B. Stoddard, on something Jason just said and something Cornel Belcher said at the top of the last hour, that Joe Biden has an insurmountable lead against one of the two metrics around which presidential elections are typically decided. And I know we don't live in typical times, but that's understanding the problems of the people in this country. But around this question of strong leadership, it really is a sign that the Biden team feels that they're on offense, that they're going after strong leadership, that it's not just his character and his decency and his empathy, but it's that Donald Trump has failed. And let me show you the messages on national security, because these seem to be the messages designed to pull over maybe those Republican or independent-leaning women in Lake County, Ohio, in Erie, PA, in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, women and men who may have sort of voted for the mystery basket. Not that Trump was a mystery in my view, but thought, let's roll the dice. But by saying he's not just not decent, he's not just uncaring, he's weak. Let me show you Colin Powell and the other national security figures that made that argument last night.
With Joe Biden in the White House, you will never doubt that he will stand with our friends and stand up to our adversaries, never the other way around. He will trust our diplomats and our intelligence community, not the flattery of dictators and despots.
Our troops can't get out of harm's way by hiding in the White House bunker. They need a president who will stand up for them, and President Biden will.
He's trampled the rule of law, trying to weaponize our Justice Department to attack his enemies and protect his friends. Put simply, he treats our country like it's his family business, this time bankrupting our nation's moral authority at home and abroad. But our country doesn't belong to him. It belongs to all of us. Joe Biden embraces that.
AB, so these are just meant to go right at the heart of who Donald Trump clearly isn't, but thinks he is. He's weak, he's puny, he's small, and he's nothing more than a failed leader of a family office.
Well, first of all, Nicole, congratulations on your second hour. I'm very excited for you, and it's so well-deserved.
Thank you, my friend.
I think that all these Republicans coming out for Joe Biden, even when the videos are awkward or dorky, like Kasich in the middle of the fork in the road, are helpful, and they're shrewd because they're telling people who might have voted, as you said last time, for the big gamble or the protest vote, or they didn't like Hillary. And maybe they're thinking this time they're feeling sheepish and they're going to sit it out. And these are voices who come to that broad part of the coalition out on the right, who might have voted in a Democratic House in the midterms. This broad coalition of former Republicans, independents, center-right voters, and these suburban college-educated white women, to tell them, look, you know it's not just the pandemic that he's messed up and the peril he's put us in from that. It's that he has destroyed our standing across the world, and this is not something that we can, take for another 4 years, not more damage we can sustain. And that's why I think the messaging the first couple of nights, anchored by Michelle Obama telling the base, you cannot sit this out. You can't be disenchanted. You must be on fire and vote like your life depends on it. These other voices were basically designed to tell people Joe Biden is safe. He's competent, he's calm, he's a grown-up, he's decent and empathetic, and he's informed by science. And I just think that messaging at this point, like you said, when he has a lead, the party's united around defeating Donald Trump and picking up and persuading more voters is very, very smart. There will be many days and ways to excite people. I think the people that were tuning in to this convention are those people somewhere out on the center right and not necessarily the young and non-white voters of the base. And I think in the campaign to come, they can reach everybody. But I think that message on national security will go further than the Republicans are afraid that it will.
Phil Rucker, let me read you a little more of what former President Obama is expected to say tonight, picking up on AB's theme. President Obama will say this, quote, tonight I'm asking you to believe in Joe and Kamala's ability to lead this country out of dark times and build it back better. But here's the thing. No single American can fix this country alone. Democracy was never meant to be transactional. You give me your vote, I make everything better. So I am asking you to believe in your own ability, to embrace your own responsibility as citizens, to make sure that the basic tenets of our democracy endure. Because that's what's at stake right now, our democracy. I don't think we have heard any campaign of either party put the democracy on the line in a presidential vote the way they are doing so overtly, so directly, and as AB said, directly to people who may be on the fence, who may not be available in the daily churn of what we do here every day or following everything here, but they are likely to see at least the highlights from these big speeches this week.
That's exactly right. And we've seen that in speech after speech this week at the Democratic Convention. These political conventions, as you know better than anybody, Nicole, are usually about the ideological divisions between the two main political parties. You know, what are you going to do about taxes? How do your health care plans differ? What would you do about the war in Iraq? I mean, this is so much more profound. This is about, do we want a democracy in America? This is about what kind of country is America going to look like going forward? That's the argument we're hearing so many of these Democratic speakers make, and more than anyone, we're going to hear it from President Obama tonight. And part of what they're trying to do is inoculate Biden and Harris against what's expected to come off the stage, or at least through the Zoom video next week at the Republican convention, when there are going to be all sorts of attacks on Biden and on Harris, representing the liberal mob, as Trump has called them, the radical left, as he has called them. And this is an effort. You saw it from Michelle Obama. You saw it in the sort of personal introduction Jill Biden gave to her husband, Joe, last night, an effort to make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris seem accessible and normal and not nearly as scary as the Republicans are portraying.
Jason Johnson, my friend John Heilman reminded me that part of the reason all those Republicans are there is inoculation for what Phil's talking about, what is to come next week. And that inoculation seems to have been thought through by Stephanie Cutter and everyone involved in this Democratic program in a way meant to maybe push the progressive base, the really important vibrancy, the future of the party, almost outside of their comfort zone. But I think by the time what Phil's talking about comes to pass next week, maybe everyone will feel better about sort of showing Joe Biden with this slice of the biggest tent we've ever seen showcased at one party's national convention.
Well, yes, Nicole. And also, you also got to remember that a lot of the Republicans were rolled out on Monday, right? So that part was moved out of the way, and increasingly you're getting
but you
to
had
the
John
more popular
McCain and
names, the more
Colin Powell
universally
last night. You're
popular
going
names.
soft on me, Jason.
Well, I know, but I'm just, but someone, I mean, like Kasich, there's a lot of complaints about John Kasich.
Yeah.
That was kind of Monday. They kind of got that out of the way. But I think that is sort of a smart thing that the Democrats have done. Now, again, I don't really agree with inoculation. I don't think it's going to matter. Donald Trump is going to say anybody who disagrees with him is a crazy communist who wants to destroy America. So I don't think it works for that reason. But I do think it gives the Democrats an opportunity to say, hey, look, these are all the different kinds of people that we represent, and this is what we can do for you, and this is how it all makes sense. I think the other part to remember is that this coalition isn't just signaling what the Democrats are going to be able to do. This is one thing that I think is really key about what we've seen these last 2 or 3 nights. And you're a part of this, Nicole. Your coverage has been fantastic. You and Rachel and Joy. The fact that this whole convention has been in 2-hour blocks means that people are actually watching, right? We're home during the pandemic. Usually, we all know conventions usually go all day. Nobody's paying attention. But regular people are like, oh, well, I can give this 2 hours.
Yeah.
So what it's doing is rather than just hearing that John Kasich said something nice, rather than just hearing about Colin Powell, people are actually watching it. And that strengthens the message of unity that the Democrats are putting forward.
You know, AB, I'll just show some of our work. I mean, Rachel's been the real advocate for watching them the way Jason just described, letting the viewer experience them the way they've been created since the conventions created them for us, for a viewing audience. It's not like a normal convention where we're sitting there sort of talking while they move one set out from a musical production, another one in. We've only looked at this as to whether or not, you know, what is lost. I want to ask you, what do you think is gained by doing them this way? I think there's a chance that maybe they're more intimate. Maybe it's harder to look away. I mean, I think people are watching what in a live production is sort of filler and, as Jason says, gets talked over. I think they're taking in a more holistic and listen, as someone who worked on convention programs, your hope is that people take in the whole thing because literally every minute is there for a strategic purpose. I think people are getting more of what's being programmed to them this way. What do you think?
Well, I think we all know after watching that roll call last night that there's no other way to ever do it again. I mean, at the bottom of the floor with the big arenas with the Maine flag and the Arizona flag, everyone looking the same and trying to be in funny hats so that they stand out so their cousin sees them on TV. The only one you ever get excited by is the state that the candidate comes from when they say, we nominate our native son and in the future native daughter. But that was the most amazing experience. It took everyone by surprise. You all saw the reaction with your family and friends on text and on Twitter. It was an amazing ride. So I don't know that you ever do that in any other way again. To go around this country like that, it was pretty seamless, except for the Delaware thing, which people didn't understand, but it turned out was intentional. So that Delaware, his home state, you know, could have him pass the nomination line of delegate counts. But anyway, it was simply such an incredible celebration of this country. And so many wonderful, thoughtful surprises. And I think that despite the awkwardness of a virtual convention, you get bonuses like that that really make it compelling and make people want to stick around for the next thing. And I think that, again, people want to be together in person again when life is normal again. We all pray. But there's many things you can do jumping around the nation that way collaboratively that were just absolutely so compelling. There's no reason to go back.
The virtual roll call and me curling my own hair are two things that are here to stay. Phil Ruckert, Jason Johnson, Amy's daughter, thank you so much for starting us up. That was a joke. Of course, my hair looked better before. When we return, Hillary Clinton's big moment on the virtual convention stage is tonight as she hopes to once again demonstrate her strategic and unique ability to get right under Donald Trump's skin. James Carville and Jen Palmieri, two veterans of the Clinton campaign, will be with us. And later, as the Democrats take the high road, Donald Trump planting his flag right where it's always been. The fresh round of unhinged attacks over the topic of immigration, one of his favorites. It's an encore of some of his worst hits of 2016. Who better to respond to them than Beto O'Rourke? Deadline White House continues after a quick break.
Find your keys. Find your get up and go. Find pants that aren't sweats. Find your friends. Find your sense of wonder. Find the world is new again. At Chevy, we'd like to take you there. Now during the